July 4th, 2026. Mark that date. Burn it into your memory right now, because it was supposed to be the moment we celebrated the 250th anniversary of this nation. It was supposed to be a semi-centennial jubilation, a testament to endurance, a moment where the arts and the history of the United States stood center stage for the entire world to witness. But instead of light, there will be darkness. Instead of music, there will be silence. And instead of open doors welcoming the American people into their cultural home, there will be padlocks and keep out signs. Make no mistake, the John F. Fair, Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, the very living memorial to a slain president and the beating heart of our national culture, will be closed, shut down, boarded up. And when is this shutdown scheduled to begin? On the exact day of our 250th anniversary, on the 4th of July itself. You cannot make this up. It is a level of absurdity that defies satire. We are being told that in honor of our history, we must cancel our present. We are being told that the best way to celebrate the United States is to cease operations of its most vital artistic institution for 2 solid years. Let me be clear, because the language being used to justify this is designed to confuse you. They are calling it a renovation. They are calling it a scheduled grand reopening. They are using flowery language about rising from the ashes. But what does that actually mean for the working musicians? What does that mean for the stagehands, the ushers, the ticket takers, and the public? It means 2 years of absolutely nothing. It means a cessation of entertainment operations. Think about the arrogance required to look the American people in the eye and say, "Happy birthday, America. We're closing the shop." This isn't just a scheduling conflict. This isn't just bad management. This is a symbolic demolition. When they tell you that the Kennedy Center will rise from the ashes, you have to ask yourself a very simple, very terrifying question. Why are there ashes in the first place? Who struck the match? A year ago, we were told this building was in a state of collapse. We were told it was falling apart. That was a lie then, and it is a pretext now. They have manufactured a crisis so severe that they claim the only solution is to stop the music entirely. On the day we should be showcasing the best of who we are, the lights will be off. The stage will be empty. And the message being sent to the world is not one of strength or vitality or cultural booming. It is a message of retreat. It is a message of failure. They want you to believe this is normal. They want you to believe that shutting down a national monument during a national celebration is just construction. Do not believe it. This is not construction. This is deconstruction. This is the systemic dismantling of public joy under the guise of improvement. And you have to wonder, if they are willing to turn the lights out on the Kennedy Center during the biggest party in American history, what else are they planning to shut down? What else are they willing to sacrifice on the altar of their ego? This is just the beginning of the silence. Let's peel back the paint and look at the rotting wood underneath, shall we? Because you need to understand that this closure is not about plumbing or wiring or updating the upholstery. This is not a renovation of a building. It is the total rejection of a brand. The Kennedy Center is not closing because the roof is leaking. It is closing because the name graffitied on the side of that building has become radioactive. We have watched, week after week, as the cultural infrastructure of this institution has crumbled, not from age, but from management. We have seen act after act cancel. We have seen key personnel flee the premises as if the building were actually burning down. Consider this fact. The new head of artistic programming, the person responsible for filling that stage with life, quit within 2 weeks. 2 weeks. When the people hired to save the ship are jumping overboard before they even unpack their bags, you do not have a staffing issue. You have a systemic catastrophe. And here is the most insidious part of the lie. The administration claims that a year ago, the center was in a state of financial and physical collapse. They want you to believe that the patient was already dead before they walked into the room. That is a fabrication. It is a rewriting of history in real time. Before this takeover, the Kennedy Center had consistent bookings. It had guests. It had life. It was a functioning organ of American culture. The collapse they speak of only started the moment they slapped their brand on the facade. The reality they are hiding from you is simple and devastating. They cannot book the talent. Even an event as monumental as the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, a stage that any artist in history would kill to stand on, could not lure performers to that venue. That is how toxic the environment has become. The artistic community knows that standing on that stage now is not a celebration of America. It is an endorsement of the ego that consumed it. So, rather than admit that the calendar is empty, rather than admit that they have turned a national treasure into a pariah, they are locking the doors. They are claiming renovation to cover up the humiliation of rejection. They are telling you, we are closing to build something better. No, they are closing because they destroyed what was already there. And now they have nothing left to show you but the dark. This goes beyond a failed booking schedule. This goes beyond a toxic brand. What we are witnessing here is a fundamental breakdown of the democratic process itself. This is about who actually owns the institutions of this country. Do you own them? Does the Congress you elected own them? Or does one man sitting in an office deciding on a whim to shutter a national monument own them? Let's look at the facts. The Kennedy Center is not a private hotel. It is not a golf course in New Jersey. It is a congressionally funded institution. It exists because of an act of Congress. Its name, its mission, and its budget are derived from the will of the American people as expressed through their representatives. And yet, listen to what Representative Joyce Beatty, a Kennedy Center trustee, had to say about this decision. She didn't mince words. She said, quote, "Once again, Donald Trump has acted with total disregard for Congress." Total disregard. She pointed out the obvious. Congress should have been consulted. If you are going to suspend operations of a taxpayer-funded entity for 2 years, if you are going to deny the public access to what they pay for, you are required morally and procedurally to go through the proper channels. But that didn't happen. There was no debate, there was no hearing, there was no vote, there was just a decree. This is governance by ego. It is the seizure of public assets for private narrative building. By bypassing Congress, the administration is sending a very dangerous message. We do not need your permission. They are treating the United States government not as a system of checks and balances, but as a personal fiefdom where they can lock the doors whenever they please. They are taking something that belongs to you, your history, your art, your celebration, and they are holding it hostage to their own timeline. They are saying that the 250th anniversary of this nation will happen on their terms, or it won't happen at all. This is the arrogance of unchecked power. When a leader feels comfortable unilaterally shutting down a congressionally mandated institution without so much as a phone call to the people who write the checks, we have crossed a line. We are no longer talking about cultural management. We are talking about the erosion of the rule of law. If they can close the Kennedy Center without oversight, what is to stop them from closing the Smithsonian? What is to stop them from boarding up the national parks? What is to stop them from selling off the very ground we stand on, all without asking Congress for permission? Representative Beatty is right to be outraged. But we should all be outraged, because this isn't just about a building in Washington, D.C. It is about the principle that public goods belong to the public, not to the temporary occupant of the White House. They have forgotten who they work for. And by closing these doors in our faces, they are showing us exactly what they think of our democracy. But if you think this is just about a theater, you are missing the point. You are missing the warning that is flashing in neon red lights right in front of our faces. The administration didn't just tell us they are closing the Kennedy Center. They told us exactly what their strategy is for the entire country. In a moment of terrifying candor, Donald Trump posted about this renovation and said the quiet part out loud. He wrote, quote, "I am doing the same thing to the United States of America, but only on a slightly larger scale." Read that again. I am doing the same thing. He is admitting that the Kennedy Center is a microcosm. It is a laboratory for a national experiment. And what is that experiment? We are watching the formula play out in real time. Step 1. Manufacture a crisis. You take something that is working, maybe not perfectly, but functionally, and you break it. You declare it dilapidated. You claim it is in financial collapse. You sabotage its operations until it actually does start to fail. Step 2. Present yourself as the only savior. You slap your name on it. You promise that you, and only you, can fix the disaster that you created. Step 3. The renovation. You shut it down. You cease operations. You limit opportunities for the people who actually use it, the workers, the artists, the families under the guise of improvement. Step 4. The collapse. The grand reopening never happens. Or if it does, it is a hollow shell of what once existed, stripped of its soul and repurposed for the glorification of the leader. This is not just happening to a building in D.C. This is happening to your health care. This is happening to your public schools. This is happening to the very machinery of our economy. They are manufacturing crises in our institutions so they can justify shutting them down. They are starving our public services so they can claim they are broken and sell them off for parts. The Kennedy Center is just the canary in the coal mine. When they tell you they are renovating the country, they mean they are evicting you from it. They mean they are closing the doors to opportunity, closing the doors to dissent, and closing the doors to any history that does not center on them. I am doing the same thing to the United States. He told us, he warned us, and if we sit back and watch the lights go out on the Kennedy Center without a fight, we are giving them the green light to pull the plug on everything else. The house is not being remodeled. The house is being foreclosed on, and we are the ones being kicked out. So here is the question that every single one of you needs to answer right now. Before the shock wears off and the apathy sets in, are we going to accept the ashes? Are we going to sit quietly in the dark for 2 years, twiddling our thumbs, waiting for a grand reopening that may never come? Are we going to trust the architects of ruin to rebuild the very institutions they have spent years trying to dismantle? Because that is what they are banking on. They are banking on your exhaustion. They are banking on the idea that you are so tired, so beaten down by the constant chaos, that you will just shrug your shoulders and say, well, I guess the Kennedy Center is closed. What's on Netflix? We cannot afford that luxury. We cannot afford to look away, because if we allow them to normalize the shutdown of our national heritage, we are complicit in its erasure. If we allow them to turn the 250th anniversary of American independence into a boarded-up construction site, we are admitting that we no longer believe this country is worth celebrating. We do not have to accept this narrative that we must destroy our institutions to save them. We do not have to accept the logic of the arsonist who promises to build you a better house after he burns the old one to the ground. We demand better. We demand transparency. We need to know exactly where that money is going. We need to know why Congress was bypassed. We need to support representatives like Joyce Beatty who are willing to stand up and call this what it is, a usurpation of power. But more than that, we need to reclaim the narrative of what this country actually is. America is not a real estate deal. It is not a branding opportunity. It is a shared covenant between the past, the present, and the future. And that covenant is currently under siege. Do not let them tell you that this is just a building. It is a symbol, and in politics, symbols matter. Symbols are what bind us together. When they cover that building in tarps and silence the orchestra, they are trying to break that bond. So, I am asking you to pay attention. I am asking you to get angry. I am asking you to reject the graffiti of ego that is being sprayed across our national identity. We are the curators of this democracy. It does not belong to the trustees, it does not belong to the donors, and it certainly does not belong to the administration. It belongs to us. The lights at the Kennedy Center are scheduled to go out on July 4th, 2026. But the light of our civic engagement, the fire of our demand for justice that must burn brighter than ever, do not let them renovate our history into oblivion. Do not let them silence the music. Stay vigilant, stay loud, and for the love of this country, do not let the lights go out.